Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. I apologize in advance for the logistics of having to switch virtual last minute. Being a county organization, we're hosting, we're serving as one of the voting sites, so we're getting prepared for that. We have so many new programs and services we're providing, so we're limited on rooms, and because we have a big group of people, I didn't want to stuff us all in one room with this pandemic going on. So apologize with that. A couple of housekeeping issues. As you could see, we have the closed captioning on at the bottom, which is nice that we're able to offer that. I believe there's a way that you can shut it off if it becomes annoying to you. I kind of get used to it. It's like watching a foreign movie. All of a sudden, I think I'm speaking French at one time or another by the end of the movie. Um, also, we have a chat box that, I would like for you to use. You can raise your hand if you have a question. Of course, you could kind of throw a question in there. I'm sure, Amber, you could help me just kind of manage that. If you don't mind, just for now, for the sake of the meeting and for the sake of time, I'm trying to get my screen back here. Go ahead and put your name, organization, or you could be a citizen. Like I know Ida is a citizen. She's not attached to any organization. And your email address, just put that in the message box. Make sure everybody knows where the message box is. And that way we can kind of see who we have on the call. There may be a button that comes up about recording. Just hit continue. It's just saying you're allowing us to record for this meeting. And then lastly, if you don't mind, if you could, just make sure you keep yourself on mute. We'll call on you if you have a question or you raise your hand. There is going to be some discussion throughout. So definitely we will call on you. Sorry, I'm just looking at meeting controls. I'm trying to manage this. I'm used to Teams, so bear with me here. So any questions so far? Amber, you see any questions on the message board? I can't see right because I'm sharing my screen. Okay, great. So first thing I want to do is just go over the agenda. And, real quick, I'm going to do a brief review of the minutes for maybe some of the people who weren't here last time. One of the big action items that we had from the first meeting was to review the plan and take any questions people had about the plan. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'll introduce you to first our director, Amber Smith, who's just going to kind of do a lead into the key performance indicators that Eliza Baldwin and John Townsend from the New Hanover County Strategy Office are going to give us an overview of what we've been doing since the last time they talked about the key performance indicators. And then next, one of the next action items we talked about was recruitment, from getting people, different organizations involved into the master aging plan. And some of you went out there and recruited some great people. I still think we have a long way to go. For me, I feel like I had 2 months to do all kinds of recruiting, and work and life gets in the way sometimes, but we have added some great additional organizations. Some maybe Amber will talk about and I'll talk about throughout, but that will be a big part of this meeting. And then I really want to go over the focus areas, because that's where this group is going to thrive, this coalition is going to thrive. And then we're going to talk about commitment to the coalition, to those focus areas, and then possible leadership opportunities within the coalition itself. So first I'll just go ahead, I'll get right into it, and I'll review the minutes from last time. And if you weren't here, we started off with giving an overview of what the master aging plan is, what is it, why do we need it here? The four focus areas, which is social engagement and inclusion, complete communities and accessibility. Whenever I try to do this fast, I mess up. Superior public health and wellness. And then the last focus area was community organizations and services. And, as you can see, all those are broad categories. So there's a lot of things that each of us do where we may fit in one of those boxes. We also talked about the framework of this coalition, the vision of it, the purpose, how this group is going to work, which in all honesty, it's still a work in process, if you will. But I feel like, throughout this first year, we're going to really solidify what the Aging Coalition is and where we're going to go. The next thing that we kind of worked on at last meeting was the key performance indicators. We talked about specific areas that hold us accountable. We talked about what we need to do well to see growth. And, with these key performance indicators, this isn't the end all be all, but it will develop a clear path forward. So keep that in mind when you hear Eliza kind of review what we have come up with so far. That's just a guideline for where we need to go. This is a 5-year master aging plan. So there's a lot that we could get done in 5 years, but overall, this is going to help guide us into the future. And then lastly, and everyone here, they could tell me if I missed anything from the minutes. I know I sent them out, and I'll continue to do that, not only with the minutes, but with the videos. So if you need to share with people, you can. You saw from the minutes, we provided a pretty comprehensive overview of the meeting, but I just wanted them to be complete. So if people were reading them, they could really get a good feel of what we were doing. But the last thing, we set basically 2 action items, and one was to review the plan. What questions do we have? And I want people in this meeting today, it's okay to ask questions. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a learning process. We can't fail. We could really only get better at providing aging services and programming for older adults. So we're not going to be offended if something doesn't, click well with you with the plan. Not everything's going to be perfect in the plan, and I'll talk about that more in a second. And then the second action item we talked about was the recruiting and identifying people and other organizations that should be at the table. So were there any questions or corrections about the minutes that maybe we didn't get right from the last meeting? No hand raises or anything like that? Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Okay. Oh, I'm missing all the great, I should have had you include your favorite book in there so I could have gotten some good reading for the future. Okay, so now that I'm back on the main page, the first thing I wanted to talk about was the plan. And we've been working on the plan here at the Senior Resource Center. We've been adding services, programming, being more inclusive. We just had a Hispanic Heritage Month celebration at different locations. We're working on the key performance indicators. But what questions do we have? So I wanted to get the ball rolling, if you will. And one of the questions I had, or the example that I'm bringing up when I looked at the plan, was there are some questionable, dare I say, unrealistic strategies within the plan. Under 6.2, I think, there's something about integrating a single electronic medical record system, which would be awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen. And that's okay. Maybe in some areas we're a little bit ambitious, but that doesn't mean every strategy that's in that plan we have to create. Some new strategies come out of that. However, on the other hand, there was another strategy in the health, Superior Public Health and Wellness section that was initiating free mental health screenings, referrals, and grief counseling for older adults. And I'm proud to say that we recently hired our first licensed mental health counselor here at the Senior Center. Their official start date is October 19th. We're in the process of hiring a second one. We're collaborating with a senior center out of Tallahassee who was just recognized nationally by AARP for their mental health services at their senior center. So I'm really excited about moving forward with that. So that's just some questions and thoughts I had about the plan, but I want to open it up now to anybody. What questions, after reading the plan, what questions do we have, and what are we missing? And feel free, if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand and talking, which I hope you do, because I don't want to talk the whole time. Raise your hand, or you can write something in the box. Anybody? Because I know that was an action item. I know everybody went back and reread the plan.
Andrew, Miss LaFollette had her hand raised.
Oh, who did?
Miss
Andrew.
LaFollette.
It's
Oh.
Suzanne.
Oh, hey, Suzanne.
How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for
Good, good.
joining.
Thanks for including AARP on this. This is fantastic. And also the shout out about your mental health. That is just fantastic to hear that you're doing that. Just wanted to put on the table to let you know that, AARP is here to support you guys in any way with livable communities. And for consideration, looking at the aging friendly network through the World Health Organization, if that's something that's still in, we had talked about in the plan at one point. And we now have a replacement for me, and she's going to start November 1st. And I'll go ahead and make that announcement. So her name is Rosalie Carlarco. Some of y'all might know her. She's a Wilmington native. She's also has a master's in social work and is the incoming president for the social work chapter here in North Carolina. So I just thought I'd mention that we're on board of anything we can do to help this process to get implemented, and just call on us. But we do have some new things that just came out through our livable communities. It's something you might want to look at that is very in tandem and alignment with what we're trying to do here in New Hanover. So yeah, so you can go to www.aarp.org/livable. And also we had a housing forum here, if you remember, in June. Went very well. We have that affordable housing bond referendum coming up for the upcoming election this fall for affordable housing. So there's just a lot of pieces that are there based on all the great work that you've done, Andrew. So thank you.
No, thank you, Suzanne. And I participated. I wasn't fully there for all 4 hours both days, but AARP had a national event. And they talked about livable communities, and there were so many great programs. That's how I connected to that the program in Tallahassee, and just a lot of great ideas. There's so many people are doing so many great things around the country, and especially AARP is a great community partner. So that's something we want to do with this coalition, is work with everybody who has the same goals as we do. So thank you for that, Suzanne.
No, thank you.
Other thoughts and questions? Trying to get my chat back up here so I can see. There we go. Did anything stick out before I move on to the recruitment part that is missing? And I know it was a comprehensive plan. I mean, we said 5 years, our first plan, we were going for the gusto. But is there anything that's missing in the plan or concerns that you have? about the feasibility.
Andrew, you've got a question in the chat.
Yeah. So let's see, it says, could you talk more about the framework you're using or partnering with to achieve goals? So we're gonna, Deanna, that's a great question. And I'm gonna, maybe as we get through this section and I turn it over to strategy and they talk about the key performance indicators, they can talk about that a little bit more. And then, you know, I also think as we really get down into this and we break up into these co-committees, if you will, these 4 focus areas, that's when I think the goals are going to even get more specific from that perspective. But yeah, I'll have them go into that more. Then if you have questions after that, we'll speak more to that. But thank you. That's great. So if there's no more questions about the actual plan, which I thought I was going to get, you know, skewed by some people and say, what are you thinking you're going to try to do this? Or what, how are you going to have more affordable housing? Under mental health, I feel like we need to address isolation and loneliness, perhaps a program to deal with that. Stakeholders seems about needs, I see. So first, I love that, Elizabeth. I think that's something that we need to focus on. The isolation and loneliness, obviously during the pandemic, was a big issue. But that's not something that was happening just during the pandemic. It's been an ongoing thing for older adults. I mean, they've been making documentaries and movies about this for years. I remember seeing this documentary years ago, and Suzanne, you may remember this one. It was all these older adults would go to the senior center during the week, and then during the weekend, they followed this one lady, and one thing that she did to keep her busy was she just ripped up paper. She just ripped it up, and there was little piles of paper, and that's what she was doing as she was by herself. So yeah, I think that's huge, and it's something that, you know, with this program that we're creating here, and there's a bunch of people doing great stuff for mental health around our community. But one thing we are going to do here is focus on older adults, and we have like a blank canvas for how we want to create this. So like I said, we're collaborating, we're partnering with people, and we're going to do the best we can to create our own program. Could we speak with stakeholders, seniors, about needs they see? You know, that's another thing that I'm excited about, and anybody else could speak to this. We did the community needs assessment, but we did it during the pandemic, and we really couldn't open up to have these open forums and community events. So I think that's something that I would love to see more too, of how do we connect to these citizens and older adults about what their needs are. Because realistically, looking at the demographics of our survey, you know, we didn't connect to all communities. A big example of this is me and my intern Constanza. We just met with the Cape Fear Latino group recently, which was great. We're going to do presentations at St. Luke's and St. Mary's. We're translating some of our information into Spanish now, which has been a long process, but we're getting it done. So yeah, we really need to connect to all older adults in New Hanover County. Yeah, thanks Rebecca for that. Yeah, they were going to get transportation here to the senior center, but because we switched it, they couldn't come. And I had a couple of people who are going to come from here as well. Let's see, am I missing any other question, Mitzi? Yeah, you talked about with direct access to current seniors. Yes, I addressed that. Bless you. So if there aren't any other thoughts, then please, you can keep them coming. You know, I wanted to switch over to the other action item, which was recruitment. And we had some great additions brought to the table by coalition members, but I feel like we need more. And first and foremost, I feel like each one of us is a liaison, a recruiter, if you will. Um, I kind of said it earlier, I get caught up in my day-to-day job, but every chance we're out there is an opportunity to bring someone else, whether it's a citizen who has, certain abilities, or an organization that can bring something different to the table, a different point of view. We have a chance to recruit. And, one of our goals at the Senior Resource Center, and maybe Amber could talk about this later, is, our goal is to hire someone as a community outreach person. Because as much as I want to do community outreach, I'm stuck in my day-to-day. We just finished the CARES grant. Our nutrition program supervisor just retired, Ellen Connor, who was amazing. We have a lot of different stuff going on, but to have someone clearly focusing on community outreach is going to be great. And, hopefully we could do that here, but if we can't, I see each one of us in the coalition is providing that community outreach as well. But so I wanted to ask a couple questions here. What organizations and people are we missing? And again, if you don't feel like calling it out or talking about it, please put that in the chat box. And again, that's what organizations or people, because there's a lot of great people. I'm sitting there seeing, I'm seeing Sarah, you're in my picture. You're one of our 40/40 stars. I saw in the Star News, which is awesome. Congratulations. But there's so many amazing different people in this county. How do we bring them to the table to get them on board to serve on the coalition? Who are they? Sage, Frank Carr. Yeah, we have some great people, I think, from the new name is is it the LGBTQ plus center? What's the new name? We have though Ed Adams on here. We have some great people from that group. Churches, that faith network, that's huge. And I don't know how to exactly go about doing that. That's something that maybe we need to talk more as a group. There's different faith organizations that some of the churches meet together, like the Protestants or the Catholics. I'm Jewish. There's only so many synagogues in town here in Wilmington. Yeah, veterans. There's the different chapters. Blind, deaf, and hard of hearing. Yeah, we're represented for the deaf and hard of hearing. I think Krista Kelly, you're on here, correct? Services for the blind. Yes, the LGBT Center of Cape Fear Coast. Nice. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, one of the things that we're doing with that, one of my social workers, Angie Olson Bozeman, she's trying to work to collaborate with the new center, the new name, to do some cultural competency and diversity educations, not only for staff here at the Senior Resource Center, but really for older adults themselves, because you have, within that older adult population, you have so many different generations. So we're trying to provide some of that education here. I just reached out to the Financial Educators of America. It's like a nonprofit group who we're working together to do some educations here at the Senior Center for that. Yep, UNCW, Cape Fear Community College. Yeah, there's Krista. Cape Fear Community College, that would be a great organization to get some connections to specific people. Are there any specific people you had in mind, Suzanne? Because UNCW, we have some connections there with Dr. Newsham. We have Ashley Wells. We have, they're willing to partner and be a part of this plan. They were a big part of it, actually. But what about Cape Fear?
So Andrew, I was thinking there's a business roundtable coalition that many of us have been a part of for the last few years. And Jerry Coleman is head of the Small Business Center there. And he's very well connected. And I think that might be a really good opportunity because that's also going to bring in the business aspect of it. I think you need to look at the private sector. Also looking at the chamber, you know, you might want to get Natalie English involved, or she might delegate, you know, someone on her staff. But, you know, again, looking at Rob Kaiser of the Wilmington Business Journal, you know, getting all this kind of tied in for you can also get that business component might be something to consider.
Yes, I agree. Anybody else? You know, that's one of the things that I'm struggling with a little bit. And I think I struggled during the pandemic, and Amber, you can maybe speak to this too, you know, trying to promote, but what can we do better in terms of like marketing strategy to bring these type of people to the table, or more organizations to the table? Like how do we really connect to these people?
So Andrew, again, I'm just going to suggest, I'd recommend for you to do a presentation at the Business Roundtable Coalition, or Amber or somebody, that way you would be encompassing many groups. And you would be covering about 16 different groups. And they meet on Thursdays, the third Thursday at 8 o'clock in the morning. I can connect you with Jerry on that,
Yeah.
but I just think that one might be a great opportunity.
It's good. And I think, you know, ultimately, and maybe I'll get into this a little later, and I have no problem doing the presentations on the plan. But I do think as a coalition, this can't just be a senior resource center plan. It has to be a community plan. So, you know, as we really get this coalition group going, maybe we do have a community and outreach subcommittee that we kind of build, and we work on presentations and getting out there and communicating. The sky's the limit, really. Any other strategies or people? There's some great ideas on here. You know, we have some people through New Hanover County Veteran Services here who are great, and you know, maybe we need to do a better job of reaching out with them to connect us to like the VVA Chapter 885, and you know, the different veteran organizations that we have in the community, to see how we can better support them, especially the older adults. Rebecca mentioned Facebook posts, maybe from organizations, individuals. You know, that's something that I've been thinking. We have Rachel, who I don't know if Rachel is still on the call, but she's our new virtual program coordinator here at the senior center, and she's like opened up a whole new world for the senior center in terms of connecting to people virtually. And so maybe we have to work with Rachel and communications and outreach to better promote this aging coalition and what we're trying to do to develop and reach the goals of the master aging plan. Let's see. Well, I would just say, you know, for anybody, I had some people from the last meeting after we met, they went out and they recruited, they got some people involved to attend this meeting. I don't know if the new people are here now. If we were in person, I would feel better about introducing you. But for the sake of time, we'll keep it going. But I do encourage you, if you want to write a name, if you want to send it to me independently, we could recruit that person together and get the commitment from them. But I do appreciate any kind of feedback, because many hands make light work. Yeah, Dr. Rudick just talked about the hospital becoming an age-friendly hospital, as well as a dementia-friendly hospital, including all our outpatient departments. And the great thing, Dr. Rudick, I think Sarah, and I know Catherine's on here, you know, one of the great things, some of you may or may not know, I was on the dementia friendly state task force that came up for guidelines of how communities could become dementia friendly. And they just changed the group, the dementia friendly group, to add communities and hospitals collaborative, which is important. And from what I'm gathering, I feel like our hospital is on board to do this. Would that be a fair statement, Sarah?
Yeah, and Dr. Rudick knows Catherine and I are definitely committed to this. It's just making sure that we can put it in line with COVID.
Yeah.
I think that's a major issue. We just need the commitment from the hospital to not only be dementia friendly, but also to go for an age friendly commitment. I think we were in the process of it pre-pandemic. Now we just have to get going with it, and we just have to move on, pandemic or not pandemic. We've had several issues going on. We have now several stronger voices to try to support us, and we just have to move forward with it.
Yes, I agree. And that's one of the reasons why I love forming an aging coalition, and not just made up of, strong people, organizations, but recruiting. Someone else mentioned, I think it was Elizabeth early, about older adults themselves, forming this coalition. I'm not trying to have a voting block or anything like that, but strengthen numbers and ideas, and people could really go a long way to improving services. And I'm kind of like Dr. Rudick. I'm biased. I'm, a gerontologist. So I'm all about age friendly, and definitely from working with the Area Agency on Aging and family caregiver support programs, and having a support group that we not only work with caregivers, but we work with people who have Alzheimer's and other related dementias. I think it's imperative. I hear the stories from these caregivers about, what little details can make someone's experience better in the hospital. And in some ways, I have to say, our hospital has made some wonderful strides, but like I think Sarah and Dr. Rudick said, our momentum kind of got kicked back a little bit by the pandemic. So we just got to keep the ball rolling. Thank you for those that input. Yeah, that's a good one, Tom. That's a real good one. Well, thank you for that input. And again, if you have names, email me separately if you want to. Organizations, I'm going to take all this down. I do not like doing minutes. I'm going to just put that out there right now, but they're important, and I will go through this video and I'll do what I have to do. So now to move on to the agenda, I wanted to call on, before we get into key performance indicators, I wanted to call on Amber Smith, our director at the Senior Resource Center. And I don't think words could truly do justice for how much work Amber does on behalf of not just our Senior Resource Center, but older adults, family caregivers, and people in general. I just, you wouldn't even understand the work she puts in to create the programs and services we have here. But thank you, Amber. And I'm just going to call on you to give your brief overview, and then you can kind of lead into the key performance indicators and introduce Eliza Baldwin and John Townsend.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. It's so good to see everyone virtually. I wish we could, meet in person, but hopefully that will happen soon. But it's good to see you, and I appreciate you taking the time to join this Aging Coalition, and also to provide the amazing feedback in the chat. Like Andrew said, this is a community plan. The Master Aging Plan, that was the intent. That's the vision of it. It started with that community needs assessment to find out, what does our community need? What are we doing really well as a community? What are things that maybe our community needs that we're not currently providing, or what are things that we can enhance even possibly? So with that being said, Andrew kind of mentioned this earlier, even though the Senior Resource Center, the county is leading the Master Aging Plan, we really need the community. We need partners like you to be the champions, to go out into the community connect with those partners that you already have and talk about the master aging plan, talk about how can your partners, be part of the master aging plan or be more intentional about providing services for older adults. So I want to thank you in advance for doing that. This is a long process. This plan itself is a 5-year plan, but we know going forward, we want to do another master aging plan before this 5-year plan ends. We want this plan to really be the foundation, to continue to grow every plan that is implemented, because we know that one thing we know that things are always going to change. There's always going to be needs in our community. And how do we make things better, not only today for our older adults, but how are we going to make things better 20 years from now for older adults? So we've really been working hard over the last couple months that we've been meeting or we haven't met. And I want to go ahead and give a huge thank you to the county's Office of Strategy, particularly Eliza Baldwin and John Townsend, who you'll be hearing from soon. But they've really been a true partner with us in this master aging plan from the very beginning, and I can't thank them enough. So over the last couple months, we've really been working on the key performance indicators, because part of this plan is how do we hold ourselves accountable, not only the Senior Resource Center, but the county, but then whoever is involved in this plan. How are we going to let the community know that this is a priority and that we're looking at ways of how we know that we're moving the needle in the right direction? We might have developed a strategy, and through collecting data and information, we might see in year 2 or year 3, that strategy really isn't working. So that's when we can kind of reconvene, and maybe that strategy needs to be changed because that strategy isn't working. So that's the really important piece of having those key performance indicators and holding ourselves accountable. And through that, the Office of Strategy has developed a dashboard. And so with that dashboard, soon that will be placed on our website when it's 100% ready to be placed. And at any given time, the public can go on to the website when that is available, and they can see what are the key performance indicators for the master aging plan, and then where are we at in moving that needle in the right direction. And also we might have things that the needle hasn't moved, so to speak. And then that's when we can look at, okay, we need to really focus on this area that we're not doing so well in. So that's a really key importance. Some of the things that we've also been working on over the last couple of months, we've been very fortunate to receive some funding through the federal government with American Rescue Plan funding. And we knew that one, in the master aging plan, it was a need, providing mental health services. And so when we received this additional funding, we knew immediately that we needed to do something about mental health and providing mental health services specifically for older adults in New Hanover County. There's not a lot of resources, we know that, for specific mental health services. So we were fortunate enough to get 2 positions. We're in the process, like Andrew said, our very first clinical licensed therapist will start on October the 19th. And we're in the process of getting a second licensed clinical therapist. Like Andrew said, it's a blank slate. We are so fortunate. We can really develop a true mental health program of what really is the community needs. That's providing direct therapy to older adults, regardless if they are insured or uninsured. Providing group therapy, whether that's grief counseling, you name it, whatever that counseling service is. So this is a great opportunity. We're excited to be able to do that. Andrew said we're reaching out to other communities, such as places in Florida. We're looking at other existing programs in other parts of the county of, okay, what are pieces of that is working well for that community? And will that work well for our community? Because we know what each community throughout the United States is very different. And we want to make sure that we're developing something that meets our community here, right inside New Hanover County. So some other things that we've been working on is expanding our nutrition services. I will tell you that nutrition is a top priority for the county, so much so that the Board of County Commissioners in January said, we do not want a waiting list for our home delivered meals program. Do what you need to do to not have that. And we have done that. We have increased our home delivered meals program about 87% since then. And we are serving more individuals who truly are homebound and are needing nutrition services more than ever. Our typical congregate nutrition, that has increased about 300% since pre-pandemic. So that's incredible. We know that there's a need in the community. We've been adding additional sites to make ourselves more accessible for individuals. Just in the last couple of months, September 1st, we're now at the Davis Center at Maids Park that we're providing nutrition services and programming. And then in the next month, we're going to be adding another nutrition site in the southern end of New Hanover County, more towards the Carolina Beach area, and more information is going to be coming about that. We've been increasing our programs, not only here at our main location at the Senior Resource Center, but at off-site locations in Castle Hayne, like I mentioned, Maids Park. We'll be offering programs, exercise, social engagement programs in the southern end soon, but we've also been partnering with the parks. We've had some recent conversations with the libraries to see how can we address the digital gap or digital divide for older adults. So more information is coming. I will tell you the master aging plan, it's intentional. It's always in the forefront of whatever we are planning as far as programming. Does this fit into the map? Does whatever we are planning in these partnerships that we're developing, is it because it was identified as a community need in the master aging plan? It's important for us to make sure that we are establishing really true, meaningful partnerships, community partnerships with other organizations, with other agencies, and with the citizens as well, because we can't do it alone. We need our community to really work together to provide these services for our older adults. Additional things is, I don't know if y'all saw, but on the county commissioners agenda item, it was an additional agenda item. One of our county commissioners brought up the need for dental services for older adults. We know that that's a need. So we're in the process of working with our public health, with Health and Human Services. Soon we're going to be launching a survey to kind of learn more about our community, specifically our older adults, and what are the dental needs for our community. Through that information, we're going to be looking at what services are needed to enhance dental services for older adults in our community. So we're constantly looking at, wellness opportunities to improve our older adults' overall health, whether that's actually providing direct medical care for individuals from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint, looking at improving exercise opportunities, looking at social engagement, exercise, nutrition. We really are looking at the individual from a holistic approach. So it's really exciting in just a very short period of time with the master aging plan, how much has already been accomplished or how much has already been or is already in the works. And this is, again, goes back to a 5-year plan. And so I can't thank you enough, and Office of Strategy for helping us. I'm really excited of what we're going to be able to accomplish as the Aging Coalition, as the Senior Resource Center, and as a community in a whole by year 5. I think this plan is really going to make a difference for our community. So with that being said, I know we've talked a lot about the key performance indicators, and I want to turn it over to Eliza and John to really kind of give you an overview of what are these key performance indicators, what is she talking about, and kind of where we are. We have recently had to establish a baseline. Okay, where are we starting at? And so that was a lot of conversation in itself, from the baseline. Where do we start? And this was a challenge. I'm going to be very honest with you, because some of the key performance indicators, we didn't have a baseline. We had never tracked it before, but we are now. And then when we look at the recreation side, specifically for the Senior Resource Center, the COVID year was not a good year to be tracking data, because the Senior Resource Center, due to COVID, our in-person group activities was closed due to COVID. So, so some of that information, Eliza and John will go over to talk about even our baseline data that we have.
All right, well, my name is Eliza Baldwin, and I think we need to get John to share his screen. So I'm not sure if we need to change the host or if he's able to do that.
I'm going to give it a shot and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So let me know if that pops up for you guys. I see a
Yeah.
thumbs up.
We've got it. Yep.
Okay.
John.
Beautiful.
Cool. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead.
So this is a screenshot of the dashboard that we've put together for several of the KPIs from the Master Aging Plan. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that this is not all of them, but these are the ones that we knew we had data for right away. We knew how to track them. We knew where to get the data. There are a few that are being currently tracked. So we've got a good mix of information that's been collected over the years. And then we've got a few that we're kind of testing out, the process of how do we start collecting this information, knowing that we have some new programs. So we're kind of testing out both sides of the data collection piece. But again, we know that there are more targets that we want to collect based on what was established through the plan. But basically what this shows is up at the top of each square here, it's that this is the target. And so we've got increased education opportunities by 2.5%. And what that shows right there, because right now we are looking at this information quarterly. So the 2.5% is not the end of the 5-year goal. That's the current quarter goal. So we can see very incrementally how things are progressing. Now, as this goes along, it may be, we may learn that a quarterly check-in maybe is not effective, or, it may be better to really just be looking at this information on a biannual system. And that's okay. The system that we're using, this is called Tableau, the software. It's very customizable. So as we continue with this project, we'll be able to make the necessary changes as they are identified. And so this is just going to be our check-in. It's going to tell us if we've exceeded the goal. It's going to tell us how much we've exceeded the goal. And we'll be able to see this little trend line as well, that will give us some information on how we've been doing since we started tracking. So John, if you want to scroll down a little bit too, and we can look at some of these other ones. So here we go. So for example, Amber mentioned that the nutrition aspect was listed as a very high priority by our county commissioners. And so we have a target here that's going to let us know if we have clients on the wait list for home delivered meals for a certain period of time. And so we'll be able to check that and they'll be able to, make adjustments very quickly as necessary if we see that wait list number is starting to creep up. And then these last few ones down here towards the bottom, this is our, this is sort of the testing part of how we're going to be tracking this information. And so we're looking at our social media interactions, Gov Delivery, which is the system that the Senior Resource Center uses for email newsletters and that type of thing. And then we're even looking at website interactions. And so I think somebody mentioned about, possibly increasing social media posts. And so we'll be able to see, if we're increasing our Facebook interactions, for example. Perhaps we just made a post about a program and those Facebook interactions have gone up. So knowing that we have so many of these programs connected as well, we'll kind of be able to gauge if, we're seeing an increase in program attendance based on some particular thing, and that program was advertised on Facebook, and we're seeing an increase in those Facebook interactions, then we'll also be able to really make those connections and say, is this working on all levels? And so really having this information just at a glance, pretty easy to understand. It should give you a quick snapshot of how things are going and at that point in time. Will really help keep everybody accountable, as Amber mentioned, and it will just help everybody understand are our programs working? Does something need to be adjusted? And I really do want to stress also with this that for example, we've got a few missed goals here based on that quarterly target, and that's okay. We do not want to use this as any kind of, shine a light on anybody doing a bad job or not doing the right thing. That's absolutely not the intention of this. It is so that we can make sure that all of these programs, because there are a lot of programs, there are a lot of strategies involved with this plan. And it will be hard to keep track of everything if we don't have some kind of system in place. And so this is just going to be a kind of a one-stop shop to keep tabs on everything that's going on, and to see where we need to pivot, where things need to change, or if we need to really continue what we're doing because we can tell that it's been successful. So I'll take if anybody has any questions.
Hey, Eliza, what did you say the name of the software was called? I'm just curious.
It's called Tableau, Tableau, and I can put it in the chat here too. It's not free. There is a cost to it, but it's really widely used by all kinds of organizations, private, public. So it can be really powerful. And another point I'll mention too is that some of this information gets pulled directly from the system that the staff at the Senior Resource Center use. And so we're not really, part of the beauty of this system is that we're not having some double entry. Some cases we are, but some we're not. And so that really helps with keeping things up to date and accurate.
Yeah, that seems really efficient. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Eliza, and I just wanted to kind of touch on this, and I don't know if this is relevant or doable, but I think it is from our talks that, some of the objectives and strategies, for example, say something with transportation, something that we have Wave. I know Megan's on the call. There may be some things that we don't have the ability to kind of, track maybe as much as Wave could. We have our transportation too, but there could be potential where our other community partners are eventually tracking their own key performance indicators and in ways that we can't do so. I mean, don't you think that's doable in the future as we get going with this plan, Eliza?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe not a direct connection with outside organizations, but we do have the opportunity also to kind of manually enter some things. So if that's just somebody typing in some information on a monthly or a quarterly basis, but at least we'll be able to show it all here in one spot. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, Andrew, because the transportation aspect is important, and it's a big part of the plan. And so I would also ask, again, as we're talking about that recruitment and who's missing from the table, kind of using this information to see how we're doing may spark an idea of, oh, well, Senior Resource Center and their coalition are having a hard time getting that transportation education out there. What can we do with WAVE, as an example, to bump that up? Because that may also benefit WAVE in some way as well. So it should be a nice way to show how we're doing, and then perhaps again kind of increase that collaboration.
Awesome. Any other questions for our strategy team?
Andrew, I've got one. First of all, Eliza and John, really great work, and Amber, for your leadership on this. And Andrew, I mean, this is really fantastic. We use Tableau as well at AARP. But I guess what I was going to suggest is just an idea. When you're looking at your social media increases, it might be something to consider to collaborate with AARP, that we could actually work with you all and do Facebook Live programs that we've had a lot of success with, and then that goes on our website, and then it hits, because we have over 225,000 AARP members in our area that we cover in the Cape Fear area. So it might be something to consider, that we could collaborate with that, and that's something we might want to, you guys might want to pursue, and it's no cost to you. We will be offering it, so it's just an idea. Also with social media, we've got some social media, we have a social media brigade. And so, that's something that we could tie in with some of the great work that you're doing, because this is what we're all about, is provide services and programs to keep people in their own home, and also what's available. So we're here for y'all.
That's awesome.
Right.
Are there any other questions? Ms. Smith, did you have your hand up? Ida Smith? Oh, you're on mute.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to share that, of course, you remember I sat on the original MAP collaboration. But anyway, I want to share a story with you. Because of my interaction with Becky and Julie, I'm calling out names now, they were very instrumental, because my mother receives one of the meals that the senior center provides. And there's a lady that lived across the street, and I won't go into her personal whatever because of HIPAA, but she was having folks to come into her home, mental health and what have you, but there was no meals, and she lived alone. And because I was able to reach out to Becky and Julie, throwing out names again, Ms. Smith, you're not supposed to do that. But anyway, and they were able to cut down the wait time for this woman to be able to get a meal. And you can't imagine the relief that this woman felt living alone, even though she had social workers coming in. Nobody had paid or really didn't see the need for so much was going on with her. But because I had this interaction by working with the original plan, that I was able to reach out to, again, Becky and Julie, and they made it happen. So sometimes we need to celebrate some of the accomplishments. And I just want to share, it wasn't a question, Andrew, but I thought it was most appropriate to share that the wait time has been cut down. And I thank you all so much.
Well, I appreciate that. And I remember that case, and it was something that needed to be done fast, and it definitely got expedited. So that's great stuff. Well, if there's no more questions, it kind of leads us in to the next part of our agenda of, how are we going to make this stuff happen? And I think it really happens with those 4 focus areas of social engagement and inclusion, complete communities and accessibility, superior public health and wellness, and community organizations and services. And you know, I wanted people on this call to think about, you know, maybe what group do they fit in? Maybe it's possible that you don't feel like you fit in any of those groups and you want to be in just the steering committee of sorts to kind of hear feedback and give overall broad feedback. But I wanted just to briefly touch on those areas again, just kind of give a little overview of each area. So maybe if you haven't decided, you could decide. And then I also wanted to share, I created now, I'm going to tell you now, it's not the best application. It's our first Aging Coalition application. It's not very creative, but it does enough to get people on board. Suzanne had a great idea to, you know, have a coalition directory, if you will. And I feel like before I just start taking everybody's names and information off emails and meetings, that we do get a commitment. So that's why I created an application, and I'll send it out at the end of this meeting. I'll actually share real quick if I can. Go share. Here's the application. Again, no making fun of my lack of creative aesthetics going on here, but just general information. You know, I wanted to get some basic demographic information because I think it's important to track who's working in part of the coalition. And then down here,
Hey, Andrew,
yes,
to go on that, we want to also make sure that our coalition and our community is diverse,
yes.
that all, you know, groups are represented. So that's another reason.
Yes, definitely. And that's something that we focused on a lot at the last meeting. I think it's real important. That's why, you know, just as a county organization, we have a Office of Diversity and Equity now. And you could really see the changes taking place within us as a county organization, which is great. But on the bottom, I have something that says this: is there anything else you'd like to know about your personal professional experience, affiliations with other organizations, boards, councils? I don't really have a spot to put on there for, you know, if you want to be on the social engagement subcommittee or community outreach, even though we don't have that committee yet, but that should be a committee. The Superior Public Health and Wellness, but maybe after this, when you fill out the application, write that in at the bottom there so I have it. Also, you could email this, you could fill in this. I'm going to send it out as a Word document. You could email and send it back that way. You can fax it. I have a fax number. You can mail it to me. I have the mail address. But please do this. When we kind of did the master aging plan, the creation of it, we didn't get a lot of commitment, and I want people to be committed to this. I want it to be official. I want people to be recognized for serving on this aging coalition. So as we get, you know, further on down the line, we'll have, you know, it on our websites. We'll be able to publish who's on there. But I did really quick want to go over, and I'm going to unshare this now. The 4 groups. I don't know, maybe I don't. How familiar is everybody with the 4 focus areas of the master aging plan after reading it? Feedback real quick. Do you feel comfortable knowing what they are? Like for each one, for example, I'm just going to say why. Maybe you could just put it in the chat box. You know, for each area, for example, social engagement and inclusion, I tasked the co-chair people in the group to come up with their own definition for the master aging plan. So for example, Amber Smith and Eliza Baldwin were in charge of the social engagement and inclusion. So their definition was social engagement refers to the engagement and active participation of older people in recreation, socialization, and cultural, educational, and spiritual activities. It is connected to a lifelong physical and mental health and well-being. Participating in activities allows older adults to find new skills and continue hobbies, build respect within the community, and establish supportive relationships. Social inclusion is the process of educating and improving people's attitudes, respect towards one another, behavior, messages of other people and of the community as a whole towards older people, and promoting and providing equal opportunities and resources for all. So when you're thinking about what subcommittee you want to serve on, think about these definitions, and maybe I would encourage you to go back to the plan and look at these definitions and see where you fit in. Also, just to talk about this a little bit more, I didn't create a separate form, but we want people who want to serve in leadership capacities. Maybe someone who wants to be a co-chair with me as part of the community and organizations and services subcommittee, or someone who wants to co-chair with Amber, even though Amber would probably say, can't we get another co-chair to be the social engagement inclusion chair? Because she's got so much going on. But if you're interested in being in a leadership role, not only with the subcommittees, but just on the overall leadership team, which, like I said at last minute, really consists of me, Amber, and Eliza at this point, reach out to me. Of course, there's going to be a lot more work involved if you're part of that leadership team. If you're part of the subcommittee, one of the ideas I had, and I'm kind of moving ahead, but we're getting close to the end of the meeting. I feel like for the next Aging Coalition meeting, we should have one in a couple months in January. But for these subcommittees, I feel like we should start meeting once a month at the beginning in November and January. So then when we get to January, the co-chair of one of these subcommittees or all these subcommittees can give an overview of what they've been working on as a subcommittee, as it relates to superior public health and wellness, as it relates to complete communities and accessibility. Like, I know there's some great things going on with transportation. I think WAVE just launched a new initiative today. We mentioned our mental health program. But I really want each of you to think about, where do you want to serve on this coalition? Again, if you don't want to be in one of these focus areas, maybe community outreach and communications is something better. Then tell me that's what you want to do. Let's see, I'm just catching a note. Yes, we could do that too, Amber. Yes. Let's see, I'm looking at questions. We provide, whose specific contact number should I give the seniors who are looking for transportation appointments, Chris? So that's Tom Pacelli. And Tom, you can put your information there. And Tom, the great thing about Tom, something that he's been doing is he's been tracking not only people who've been calling in about needing our transportation, but he's providing education about other transportation resources in the community. And that's a wonderful thing, because he's not just saying, hey, well, here's what we do and we're not going to give you any more help. He's going to connect people to WAVE, or he's going to connect people to private services. He's going to think outside the box. He's already working on a volunteer transportation program that could be done through the Senior Resource Center. Early stages, we talked about that last time, but yeah. So going back to that, just, I want you to think, when we send out this application, please tell me if you don't want to be, if you just want to be in the bigger group, that's okay too. We need people to help give feedback, to be a part of this, to be part of promoting and connecting us to organizations and people, like we said. So any questions before I kind of get to next steps and action items? Because I do want to give a few minutes at the end. I just saw Megan did share the new regional Michael Transit pilot project. So maybe she could take a minute or two to talk about that at the end. But before I get into the next steps and action items, any other questions for me, Amber, Eliza, John, anybody? Okay. If not, so again, for my first action item for the group, I think we form these subcommittees, and I think we have to do it by the end of the month. So I would encourage everybody. I don't think I'm being such a hard person by saying, hey, get me your commitment application by the end of next week, which is Friday, maybe my birthday, the 22nd. I'm not sure. If you want to send presents to, you can with that application. Just kidding. But yeah, if you could have that commitment to us back by the 22nd, that would be great. I think, that's a big goal. From there, we could kind of form who wants to be leaders. Like I said, we're going to have someone from the senior center who at first is going to be a co-chair. They don't have to stay in that co-chair position, but just to kind of get the ball rolling, I think it's important. I think we should also, our action items should be that each of these subcommittees should have a meeting sometime in November. Also, just going back to the application, if you think there should be another subcommittee like communication and outreach, let me know. We could have more than 4 subcommittees. We could have 7 subcommittees. I'm okay with that. And then I guess the biggest action item I have is let's just get to work. Let's start doing this. Let's continue recruitment. When you get in these subcommittees, it may be easier to determine who we need to bring on board, what organization is missing, because you're going to kind of be more specific or specialized in what you're working on. I see someone like Sarah, and again, Sarah, sorry, your picture's in front of me, so I keep on getting shots of you, but probably Sarah's going to be involved with Superior Public Health and Wellness. That's probably what group. She was a co-chair of that group. She may not be the co-chair of the subcommittee, but she's going to be involved with that group. So whatever really connects to you. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, we'll get you on that. Send that application and put that on there. That's great. Thank you for being here. But any questions for me, because I kind of rushed through those next steps and action items, but I did want to give people time here at the end. Anything that we missed today, anything you're unsure about, you won't hurt my feelings. No? Gosh, you sure not like my kids. I mean, they, have something to say about everything, but you guys are great. Okay, good. So does anyone want to have any information to share, any announcements? Because I think, as we said earlier, this is a great platform to promote great programs you got going on, upcoming events we could help share. I would be happy to do that. Thank you, Suzanne.
Andrew, if I may, thank you for that plug for our new microtransit service. So good morning, everybody. My name is Megan Matheny, and I am the Deputy Director for Wave Transit. You may see or be familiar with our mobility manager, Miss Brianna Dietrich, because she sits on this committee, but had a schedule conflict. So you get me today. So the authority did implement a regional microtransit or on-demand pilot project. So this pilot project, again, provides more flexible service to Pender County, Brunswick County, and New Hanover County. So we have 4 transportation zones that are included as part of this project. The project is a 1-year pilot project, but the authority is securing additional funds for a second year to support this regional effort. So more information can be obtained through our website. Now, this is a relatively new concept, this microtransit. It's a revised, again, a more flexible service. So instead of having a fixed route with an average of 50 bus stops in an area. We have an average, or we have virtual stops, and roughly about 100 bus stops in each, or excuse me, virtual stops in each zone. But when the program comes to full fruition, we'll have about 2,000 stops per zone. So we have virtual stops. Again, that adds to the flexibility. We'll have an increased number of stops, and we'll have decreased wait and ride time. So whereas a traditional fixed route operates on hour headways, the microtransit will operate on a 30-minute service. We will have an app, a full tech suite that customers can book their rides and pay through mobile, again, through our mobile pay application. So you'll have a one-stop app that can perform these functions. Now, for our customers, and particularly elders who may not have access to technology, we do have booking can be accomplished through a simple phone call to our call center. So we do have different formats in which residents and community members and visitors can call or can secure their reservations. So that's an overview of the program. Again, this is a one-year pilot program that offers a more on-demand service than a traditional fixed route transportation offering. So we'll share data as it becomes available with the group, and we're available to provide trainings, any sort of trainings to organizations and groups who may be interested in learning more about or utilizing the services under the microtransit program. And thank you, Andrew, for
Megan, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Will you be able to provide services for those persons that may be wheelchair bound?
Yes, all of our services, great question, are accessible. So,
okay, great.
Absolutely.
Right. Anybody else have anything to add about upcoming events, programs?
Yes,
Elder
I
House
can-
is actually, oh,
Go ahead, Rebecca.
sorry. I work for Elder House, and we're actually moving into a brand new building, Kings Grant area. So we're really excited about that. I'll be sharing with everyone when the open house will be. I don't have an exact date yet because of all the inspections, but it's supposed to be about mid-November. But I'll share that with you guys and come out and see what all we do.
I'm real excited about that for y'all, and some of you may or may not know, at one point or time, I did my clinical work under Dr. Fretwell back in the day, and then I was on the board at one point at Elder House. So I really believe in what they do there. They have a wonderful program, especially with PACE. And I believe, Sarah, you are next.
Yeah, I was just going to mention we are going to have our women's health event on October 25th from 5 to 7 at the MLK Center. We're going to have a lot of people and vendors there focused on women's health. We will have our mobile mammography unit on site, so you can get your mammogram that day. We're going to have Miss North Carolina there, as her platform is around breast cancer awareness. And we'll have a free food truck there too. So we would love to see everyone.
Nice. Anybody else have anything to add before I final statements? I guess, I know we had a few people missing just because of being out of town or conflicts, but what we'll do is I'm gonna hopefully have these minutes. We have a recording, and we'll get them posted, or I'll get them out to everybody by Thursday. Really appreciate you being here. I know Marcy was on the call from Plantation Village earlier, you know, with these subcommittees, we don't have to meet at the senior center. Maybe we meet at Plantation Village, or we meet at a room in the hospital, even though they probably don't have a lot of spare rooms like us. We could meet anywhere we need to meet, Coastal Horizons. Definitely, I appreciate everybody taking times out of your busy schedule to be here. Amber, I appreciate you and the great overview you gave. And Eliza and John, thank you again for all the great work you've done. But if there isn't any questions, please reach out to me by email or mail or by phone if you have any. Send the applications in for your commitment. I really think that's important so we could kind of determine who is committed so we don't bother anybody if they don't want to be part of this. And just appreciate everybody here. So thanks and have a great day.